We're all living in a world gone geek. It's time to geek hard or go home. The podcast is real. Here's your host, Grounded Geek.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of World Gone Geek. We've got a special treat for you today, an interview with none other than Jason Griffith, the iconic voice of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic X, the Sonic video games, and more. We caught up with Jason last September at the Cleveland Gaming Classic, and now we're finally bringing that conversation to you. It was an amazing time talking with him about his career, the impact of Sonic in the world of voice acting. But before we jump into that, a quick reminder, tickets are on sale for this year's Cleveland Gaming Classic happening in September of 2025. If you love gaming, classic arcade games, or all from the classic arcade to the consoles at home, all the way up into the crazy stuff that we've got going on today, including virtual reality and more. All of that is at the Cleveland Gaming Classic at the IX Center here in Cleveland, and you don't want to miss out on it. Meet some awesome people. The event's bigger and better than ever, and we, World Gone Geek, will be there to bring all the excitement to you as well. So get your tickets now at GameCleveland.com, and we'll make this year unforgettable. Now, before we dive into our interview with Jason, I do want to tell you about something you don't want to miss, and we want to thank our friends over at Paramount who have provided us with some actual Blu-ray physical copies of Tulsa King Season 2. The Boss is back in Season 2 of the hit series Tulsa King, starring three-time Oscar nominee Sylvester Stallone. Get a fresh look behind the scenes with two exclusive featurettes, including Stallone's tribute to fellow cast and crew and the creative process for writing dynamic storylines. You can own Tulsa King Season 2 on DVD and Blu-ray now. Now, I don't know about you, when I hear Sylvester Stallone and Mobster, I'm immediately intrigued. Season 2 of Tulsa King takes things up a notch, and with Stallone leading the charge, it's just as captivating as the first season. I love this show. It's from Taylor Sheridan, who has knocked it out of the park with shows like Yellowstone and 1883 and 1923. The dude is on fire as a hit maker. The shows that he makes are just incredible, and this is one of them. It's so much fun. It's raw, intense, and so much more than your typical mob story. And personally, I think the behind the scenes features make it even better. So hearing Stallone kind of give his creative process has an extra layer of depth. Definitely worth checking out. And like I said, you can get a free copy. How do you do that? Well, you just need to leave us a voice message. How do you do that? Go to our website, worldgonegeek.com. You'll see all of our podcasts there, including the episode that you're listening to now. Maybe you're already there. Go to the very bottom of the screen, and there is a little microphone in the bottom right-hand corner. Click that. Leave us a message. Tell us who you are. Leave your email address, and I'll get back to you. The first, let's say 4 people that do that are getting an actual physical digital Blu-ray. Digital. It is digital, but it's blue. It's on a physical disc. I'm holding it in my hand right now. You can't see it, but this is it. And you're going to get a copy of it in your grubby little hands just by doing that. All right, enough of me. Let's get to the good stuff. Jason Griffith, the voice behind Sonic the Hedgehog and countless other characters, is here to share his journey and insights into the world of voice acting. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we dive into the world of gaming, Sonic, and everything in between. Please welcome to the stage, Jason Griffith. There he is.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead. You
Hi,
can have
guys.
a seat if you want. I don't want you
All
to have
right.
to stand. I definitely can't stand the whole time.
Yeah.
So, but first, before we get started, I do want to just remind folks that are here, Jason, it's from Cleveland.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about where you grew up here in Cleveland. A little bit about that.
I grew up in Lakeline Village, which is a small town right between East Lake and Timberlake.
Let's scoot back.
I went to East Lake North High School and Willowick Middle, where I did my first school play and really fell in love with acting. So I grew up there, watched a lot of television growing up, specifically sitcoms, which really got me into the notion of being an actor, because I always wanted to be on a sitcom, specifically Full House, because I wanted to be Uncle Jesse, and I was in love with Candace Cameron.
Okay.
And
well, that would have been awkward though if Uncle Jesse.
that's a storyline nobody needed to see.
No, I don't think so.
I always say, so growing up, I always wanted a video camera, but back in the 80s and early 90s, they were like $1 billion. So instead of that, every Christmas or birthday, I would get a voice recorder. like a microphone and, little cassette tapes. And so all the creativity I wanted to put into the video camera, I put into these microphones, these boom boxes and whatnot. So I really think that had a huge impact on why I'm a voiceover actor today. I do tell my mom, if you would have just gotten me that video camera, I'd be on a sitcom right now.
That's all it would have taken. Well, so you grew up here in Cleveland, but that's not where you are now. I think you said it was just like through high school, right? And then
yeah, I was here through high school. I think I moved to New York the week I graduated, because my cousin was already living out there, so we lived together in Queens. He was an actor. He was auditioning for things, and he looks nothing like me. He had this great conundrum where he was 18, but he looked 14, so he could play all the high school parts, and he could work long hours because when you're a kid, you can't work the long hours on the set. I had the opposite problem where I was 18 but looked 40, so everyone's like, "Well, I don't think he doesn't look like the editor of the school paper." I don't think so. Really, I think my agent came up against a wall where he's like, "I don't know how to submit you," and started putting me out for voiceover stuff. And it just clicked. I remember that it was in the first couple auditions I had where I booked the job. I think my first voiceover job professionally was for a Zit Cream or something like that. And it went horribly. In fact, I left that session thinking I'll never, ever do voiceover again because it was just so embarrassingly bad. But then, my agent submitted me on another job and I went on that and booked that. And, I said, all right, I'll try again.
So what was the... did video games come first or animated shows come first? Which was the first one that you ended up doing?
So I did my first animated shows, anime called Gravitation. Not a very popular thing, and okay,
it's
you guys know
popular in
Gravitation?
here.
Okay, great.
We got some fans.
I don't even remember who I played. I think I played a couple characters and maybe a game show host. And the director of that, named Bill Timoney, every time I see him, I thank him for my career because he said to me during the session, he's like, "You're really good at this. Do you want to audition for Fox's Saturday morning cartoon lineup?" And I'm like, "Yes." So that next week, I went in for a show called Shaman King at 4Kids. I auditioned for that. I didn't even get a call back. So I was like, well, that's that. That didn't work out. And about a week and a half later, they called me in to audition for Sonic. And I thought for the show, Sonic X. And I thought to myself, like, oh, what are the chances I'm going to get Sonic, this huge character, when I didn't even get a call back for the show I've never heard of before? But I went in, I auditioned, I got a call back, surprisingly, and went in for that, thought that went even worse. And, didn't hear anything for about 2 weeks. And I was working, I worked a lot of odd jobs in New York before I was supporting myself as an actor. And I was working at my agent's talent office at the time when they called to book me. In fact, my agent wasn't even in. I was sitting there answering calls at his desk. And I answered, and they said, "Oh, yes, this is 4Kids. Jason Griffith came in and auditioned for us for the voice of Sonic." And I was like, "Oh, great. I get to hear the rejection firsthand." And I said, "Yes, I know Jason." And they said, "Oh, well, great. We'd like to book him next Wednesday." And I just about fell out of my seat. I'm like, "Okay, let me take that booking information and get it to him right away." And so the funniest thing is my agent was in Florida at the time at a talent convention. He calls to check in that day, and I'm like, John, I booked Sonic." And his reply was, "Jay, no, you didn't." And I'm like, "I took the call." And it took me getting one of the other agents, with like a commercial agent in the office, to get on the phone with him and tell him, to convince him that I'd actually booked the job. So we had this ongoing thing because I would always book jobs when he was out of town. So I'd be like, "Get out of here. Like, go to South Carolina."
Maybe you don't need that guy.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You just needed his name on the door. That was it.
I did eventually have to leave him, so maybe that.
That's it. So you mentioned, so you got booked. What I think is interesting, this is what I would love to find. So did you already have the voice of Sonic? Like, did they book you because you nailed that voice? Or did you have to make some adjustments when you went in? Like, tell me about the process of coming into Sonic's voice.
Well, when I had the first audition, or maybe it was when I had the callback, I remember walking around the streets of Manhattan with this portable Walkman with a cassette tape in it, just practicing all different types of voices. I actually hung it from my shower curtain once, so it would just hang down like a microphone. And listening to that and going in with those ideas. However, funny enough, when I went in for the callback, the producer, Michelle Dunn, she said, because I auditioned for all the male characters in the show, including a character named Chris Thorndike. And she said, I love what you're doing for Sonic, but can you switch those voices? Do the Sonic voice for Chris and do the Chris voice for Sonic. And so I switched them. So it was the voice that I was doing for Chris that actually became the voice of Sonic. Yeah. And that evolved while we were recording too, because in the beginning,
Sonic was like kind of nerdy and a little nasally, and this sort of very gentle feel.
But by the time we did Sonic Unleashed, the producers were like, we want him cooler. He has to be like sharper, shorter, more power. And so that was the evolution of that. So there's always like, anytime there's producers or directors, there's always input on like how it should sound or, how you can tweak it. That's like a never ending process.
And then how do you find that voice inside? Like, I mean, I noticed you, what did you do? I mean, obviously it was a different voice as it matured in different shows. What is it that you do to kind of get those different voices out of yourself?
It's like a feeling. I don't know I would never know how to describe it for someone else to do it, except I know when I do Sonic, everything comes out through here. When I do Shadow, everything comes throughout my voice. Okay. And then when I do Usopp, it just comes out of all my face. I don't know how to describe it any better than I worked with the film director, Philip Noyce, on one of his films about 10 years ago. And his biggest direction to me was just feel it. Jason, just feel what you say. And that's like the best way I can describe it, And a lot of it has to do with your face. And, because as a voice actor or any sort of actor, you never want to just stand there with your hands in your pockets, not moving. I always conducted myself. I learned from other directors, other casting directors, that the more you moved, the better the sound was going to be. And I remember there was one particular session, I believe it was one of the Sonic Riders games. So when you're in a booth, in the recording booth, you can't hear anything that they're saying in the control room until they hit the button. And to the reverse of that, if they have the button, continue to press it, you can hear everything they say. So I did a line. I think it was like a jet line. And I was, shut your beak or whatever. And the director was like, that was great. And she kept her finger on the button, I think by accident, because then she turned to everyone in the room and said, did you see that silly little dance he does? And I was like mortified because it was, that was the first time anyone like called me out on it. And it took me about 2 seconds to realize, oh, who cares? Because like, that's how I get the best sound, and now I've grown to be like proud of being like doing the things that I think a lot of people would find embarrassing or, they wouldn't be comfortable with, especially in the beginning. But it's a point of pride, I think, to feel uncomfortable and to do the things that, not everyone can do. Sure. To make your work the best it can be.
Why do I picture you running around the booth as fast as you can since you're doing Sonic? I don't know.
There have been sessions where they're like, do like 5 laps because then you're going to be out of breath. Or run in place and then do the.
That's funny. So, how does voice acting then for the video games differ from when you're doing it for the show?
Right. So with the show, everything was. So the show was already dubbed into Japanese. So we would see the picture, and you see the lip flap that can't change, and then you have to fit the words into that flap. With the video games, everything was prelay. So you get the script, they would record it, you wouldn't see anything, and then they would come back months later after they had animated some of the stuff, and then you would do the same thing you'd done with the show, where you're kind of matching lip flap. But everything for the video games was, prelay, and with the video games, you're doing the dialogue and then you're doing 20 pages of reactions. So it's like, give us injury, like small, medium, large. Like that sort of thing. Or sometimes they want like five in a row. But that's like all video games are like that. I did Call of Duty, and it was like, all right, in this queue, you're being killed by water. But in this one, you're being blown up by a grenade. So, give us that whole range from there to there and in between.
So how do you channel getting blown up by a grenade?
imagination.
Okay.
That's the biggest tool, you know.
Well, I don't know if you've Googled it, but on YouTube you can find videos where people have pulled all of the sound cues from video games, and it just plays every sound cue. And so literally,
Sounds terrifying.
you can go to YouTube and look up Jason Griffith, and it's like one of the Sonic games that you've done, and it's literally that and then some of the things that you say and that you say multiple times. And so I just imagine that's what you're doing in the studio, though. I guess you're just basically saying
Exactly.
over and
That's
over
exactly
again.
what it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Well, you should check it out. It's kind of.
I will.
You
My brother
probably
actually.
you
my-
lived it. So
Oh, by the
maybe-
way, everyone, this is my family in the front row here. This is my brother and my mom and Julia, my brother's friend. It's my first time being in Cleveland in like 3 years, so I got to see them for the first time in many years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, and you brought them. So welcome. Thanks for being here, guys.
Yeah, they love it here.
All right. All right. So what? So how would you say voice acting has evolved? You've been doing this for a while now, especially. I know a lot of things changed during COVID and post-COVID now. Some of those things are permanently changed.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the evolution of the voice acting from when you started to where we are now? As
Sure.
Stuff changed.
So, when I first started, you went to a casting office to audition for voiceovers. There was a casting director there. You were up against maybe 20, 30, 40 different actors for a job. If it was a free campaign, it was like 500 people. But you were in a booth at a studio with a casting director listening to you saying, try this again this way, which was a huge help because sometimes those casting directors would give you advice that you would never have thought of yourself, and that books you the job. And then recording, you were always going to a studio. They always had the client there. When we were recording the games, they flew the people in from Sega, San Francisco, and Japan. We had translators. But then, especially, this was sort of incrementally happening before COVID, but COVID is when everyone started auditioning from home. Like, I don't even think there is going to a casting office to audition anymore for voiceover, which is really sad because I really miss that interaction with the casting director who can really change your whole performance. And of course, a lot of, I have my own home studio. A lot of things are recorded from home, but anytime I get to go to a studio, I love that too because, interacting with real people. But yeah, that's the main thing that I think so much of the work is now done from home, especially the audition process, but also I'm the voice of Navy Federal Credit Union. And all of those, every time you hear a Navy Federal Credit Union commercial, just think, oh, that's Jason in his living room. Like I have another commercial right now called Zydra. And my mom will always text me, oh, your Zydra commercial's on. I'm like, oh, just imagine I'm in pajama bottoms saying all those things. So, but and that's fine in itself, but it's, there's something special about being in a studio, like going to Warner Brothers to record, anything is just, you feel cool. I think that's 80 to 90% of wanting to be an actor is just wanting to feel cool all the time.
Well, I feel like you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
We all think you're
I
pretty
hope
cool.
so. I don't know if any of the bullies from high school are here, but they might they might beg to differ.
Yeah. Well, that's in fact, I was thinking about asking that earlier when you mentioned that you come from Cleveland. Now that you haven't been back for a little while, have you spoken to your teachers, anybody from back in those days who now know what you do? Like, is that a
no teachers? We're all friends on Facebook for the majority. Majority of them I'm friends with on Facebook. I haven't seen them since I've been here, but I just had dinner with a couple friends from high school last night. And was there anybody else I saw? A next door neighbor? Yeah, I saw my next door neighbor. I haven't seen in years. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't. I keep in touch with so very few people. So I have one good friend that I've been friends with since elementary school, and we keep in touch quite often. But he doesn't live here anymore.
Gotcha. So what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced as a voice actor?
Vocal exhaustion. That was a big thing. Especially a lot of you, I think I talked to some of you about recording Sonic Unleashed. That was, and if you played the game, all I do is scream. And especially as the werehog, that's the worst scream because not only do I scream, but I'm compressing my voice to make this certain, like that. And when I was recording that, I was sick, but especially sick because my I thought I had strep throat. And it was so bad. Every day my throat was getting more and more swollen, and I just had to scream more and more the next, for the next session. And again, back then we couldn't say, oh, can I do this next week? It's on Zoom anyway. No, everyone flew in from Japan. You're going to do it right now. Wow. That's the biggest hurdle, I think, is when you're you just feel like you can't, like your voice doesn't regenerate fast enough, sometimes.
Yeah. Other tips and tricks that you've learned over the years?
Water, constant water, no sugar, or limit that. I don't drink soda anymore or any of that sort of thing. Also, I want to say when you have, well, first of all, when I audition for things, there's a lot of times I'll audition for something and I'll say to myself, oh man, I hope I don't get this job, because I'll realize, oh, if I get this, I'm going to have to do this 4 times a week, and like, maybe I should have picked a different voice to audition with. But I think choosing a voice or choosing some manner of like getting to that voice and knowing where it comes from. Like I know where Sonic comes from, and I can do this all day, and there's just like a confidence about it. Even Shadow. I mean, even though this is lower, it's more challenging because it comes out of my throat. But I don't know, there's a way I push it. There's a way I can push it where I'm not exhausting my throat as much. But like, and I also take these Chinese like candy lozenges called Nimjong that are really helpful, that have saved my career, I feel like, on numerous occasions. I was working on the last Planet of the Apes movie, and it was just huge. It was so much grunting and these noises that they wanted to sound genuine, and they were really very specific about it. So it was like over and over, doing this take over and over. And I had a huge job the next day narrating a documentary. And I remember turning to my friend, John Bentley, in the session. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this job tomorrow. I'm going to lose this job. And he's like, I got this thing for you. And he pulls out these Nim Jong candies. And I took 2 of them. And every time I've seen him since, I'm like, thank you so much for introducing me to those, because my voice was fine the next day. And I don't feel like it would have been had I not had this like herbal lozenge.
Wow.
Yeah.
And just for legal purposes, this is not a paid endorsement for Nim Jong.
Although it could be if you reach out.
Yeah, he's available, is what he's saying. Yeah. So, what advice would you give someone who wants to do the same thing you did, who moved to New York and?
Don't do it. No, I say that because if someone can discourage you from doing it, then you shouldn't do it. I always had a lot of support, but there was still a lot of hurdles to jump over, and there was still a lot of doubt when I moved to New York. Is this going to work out? Is this what I should be doing? I knew it's what I wanted to be doing, but when you're young enough and impressionable enough, people can kind of say to you, oh, maybe you shouldn't do that, or you should do this instead, and play it safe. Because let's be honest, acting and voiceover work, it's not like a safe route. Especially in the beginning when there's so much, because now there's so many people auditioning for things. That's the other thing that's changed. Because people can audition for home, there's 1,000 people submitting auditions now. But if you want to do it, and you're really driven to do it, don't give up. And make yourself better. Don't be lazy about it, and don't wait for someone to do the work for you. I always tell people I never played any of the games that I voiced, because by that point in my life, I had played so many video games for so many years throughout the 80s and early 90s that I was done. I'm like, this is what I'm focused on now. So it's like people are surprised to hear I never played the games, but I'm like, I didn't have any time. I was going to acting class, or I was going to my job at the pizzeria, or, delivering things around Manhattan and auditioning and like listening to things. I would watch shows, and I would, make up. I would practice what other people were doing and sort of see if I could do what they were doing, and then change it to my own version. Okay. And of course, like growing up, what I did was I was always taping myself, listening back. When I finally did get a video camera, I'd be watching that footage, putting myself on tape, criticizing myself, critiquing myself, always working on it. Because if you're not working on it, the next guy is, and that's the guy that's going to get the job. And I found that over and over when I would under-prepare something and I'd feel like, I shouldn't be at this audition. And then constantly, on the flip side of that, when I would not over-prepare, but when I felt, oh, I can't do any more preparation. I'm ready for this. You go in and it's the best feeling in the world because you're like, you feel unstoppable. That's when you really feel cool. Like that's the coolest part. So I would say, you know, your job as an actor, as a voice actor, 99% of your job is someone handing you a script and saying, do this now. It's not come back in like a week when you figured it out. And people are always rewriting. Everything I do is rewritten. So you got to be quick on your toes to like read that line and know exactly how to do it right then and there. So always be working on that. A tip a casting director gave me, which my wife and I do all the time because we think it's great, is if you see a billboard or you see an ad in a magazine, usually there's like a little tagline. This is great for commercial auditions, for every kind of audition. Try to do that tagline, say it out loud 3 times, and make it completely different. So, for example, if the line is new maple brown sugar flavored instant Quaker oatmeal, it almost takes longer to say than it does to make. Try to do it 3 times fast by adding a word at the beginning, like, hey, new maple brown sugar flavored instant Quaker oatmeal. Or like, did you know this? New maple brown sugar flavored instant Quaker oatmeal. Or like, look, new maple brown sugar flavored instant Quaker oatmeal almost takes longer to say than it does to make. You know, get really good at doing that quickly, because then you go into a casting you go into a casting or even a session and you're going to be the director's dream because they know you have that range. I auditioned years ago for Heinz Ketchup, for the voice of Heinz Ketchup. Did the audition. It was like three times in a row and left. Never heard anything. You know, that's what happens. You never hear anything. I went in for that casting director like a month later. She's like, do you know you were second choice for that? I'm like, no. She's like, do you know why you didn't get it? I said, why? She's like, you did 3 great reads in a row, but they all sounded the same. The guy who got the job wasn't as good as you, but he did 3 different reads and made the producers go, oh, he's directable and we're not stuck with this one reading of this thing. It's all psychological.
Interesting.
You know, so that's a great thing. Just be quick on your feet, read out loud, and record yourself. Listen back. Be critical of yourself, but don't hate on what you're doing. Just think, if you don't like something, you can do it better. If you do like something, then see if you could change it to something even cooler.
I love that. And just, again, for legal, this is not a paid endorsement for Quaker oatmeal. I'm just covering myself on the podcast.
Oh,
to make sure.
I thought that was a joke.
No, it was. I'm just being. All right. So can you share a particularly memorable or rewarding experience? Like, you told about how hard it can be, right? Discouragement can come out there. Now, give us a reason to want to do it anyway. What's been the most rewarding part for you?
It's doing these conventions, because everything that all this my Sonic related stuff ended 15 years ago. Like I haven't voiced officially Sonic in 15 years, and the beginning was 20 years ago. To meet fans that have been impacted positively by what I've done has been such a surprising, rewarding experience. I've had people break down crying when they meet me and tell me that Sonic kept them from self-harm, or their home life was really bad and Sonic was the one thing that they could rely on to make them feel better or accepted, or they met friends and like groups of friends who were all into Sonic, and then they became lifelong friends. Those are the most surprising things, because I never considered that. I just thought when I was done, that was it. And every once in a while I get a MySpace message that says, you suck. You know, especially in the beginning, people were very mad that I had replaced Ryan Drummond. I'm like, I didn't, I just went in for the audition. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, that's been the most surprising thing. But the most rewarding, in the sense that that's the coolest thing that could have come out of this. Yeah. That people have had that experience. And in the beginning, when the people would tell me in the beginning, I didn't really understand until I remembered, like, oh yeah, like Full House was that for me. Like, no matter what was going on in my life, if I put on, and I taped all of the Full House episodes, my mom knows the tapes are still at home, stacked in the attic somewhere. If I put on one of those tapes and watched like 3 episodes, I was like, oh, I feel so much better now. I feel like, and again, that's what made me go, like, I want to be on that set. I want to be working there. I want to be this person, you know, that makes someone else feel better. And I got to do that.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, and would you mind sharing, like, how do you deal with the negative criticism then when you do get the MySpace use? And again, one of the things at World Gone Geek, we're trying to decrease all the negativity, but if you get online, like, there's a lot of negativity about that. And some of the people who maybe were fans of Ryan Drummond were very angry for some reason.
Yeah.
Tell us how you deal with that.
Oh, I don't. I really, I let it slide is maybe not the right wording, but I don't respond to it. Because the other thing I think is that everyone is entitled to their opinion. I remember when I'd be watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Raphael's voice wasn't the same all of a sudden. And I was like, why? This ruins my third grade afternoon. So I get it.
Ruined my childhood.
Now, would I have written that person a letter and told them to go to hell? No.
But we can do that now with the internet.
And
That's
people
the problem.
have.
Yeah.
Oh, you should. There's a great. I just got an Instagram message a couple months ago of someone reaching out to me to tell me that I corrupted the youth of the world by playing Shadow and saying, in quotes, the D word, and how it spiraled. And they're like, and I can cite example after example of how the world has gotten worse because you did this. And I mean, my way of dealing that was to just hit the block button.
I mean, that's what you got to do.
I don't need to hear any more from that. And I also don't need to respond to it because I think a lot of times what they're looking for is a reaction. And I've grown to almost feel like things like that are a badge of honor. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool because if I wasn't doing this, I wouldn't be getting hate mail.
True.
But the fan mail and the positivity far outweighs that. I mean, especially now. But back then it was,
Sure. Yeah. Then when someone replaced you, they were the ones that people were mad about.
Yeah, and sometimes still are. But I always remind people that, we all have our different takes. Everybody sounds different, and everybody has their own era, So it's okay that we're able to share this character. I think it's better than having one person say, this is mine, and that's nobody else's, I think it's great. And the other thing is that Sonic really started my career and opened so many doors that I'm able to support myself now and my family with voiceover work that maybe wouldn't have happened if not for Sonic. So, how could I, when people ask if I'm upset about it, how could I be upset for something that gave me so much in return, I don't care that someone else gets to voice him now. I think it's great. I haven't met Roger yet, but I hear I know he's a fantastic actor and a lot of people love him. I have met Ryan, and he's a wonderful person. So it doesn't bother me. It makes me feel like I'm part of a close-knit community, that we're all kind of in the Sonic Club together,
Awesome. Well, man, every time I look back, there's more people out here, which is fantastic. Thank you all for coming. We're going to does anybody have any questions from the audience? Feel free to line up here at the microphone and, or raise your hand if you have. And I have a couple more I can ask them, but we'd love to get you guys involved. You'll be on our podcast, just so you know. We're being recorded right now. But go ahead, step up to the microphone.
So no endorsements for Quaker oatmeal.
But yes, please. Not until they pay me. That's what then we can do that. Tell us your name, first of all.
My name is Nick.
Yeah. All right. And what's your question for Jason?
Well, I was going to talk about Quaker Oatmeal, but now that I can't, I'm trying to rack my brain to find something. Thoughts on Crush 40 being in the new Sonic movie, making a return?
Oh, I didn't even know. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Crush 40 was at Sonic Expo last year, and we're doing Sonic Expo again in Dallas, November 3rd through the 5th, I believe. It's the first weekend in November. And I think they might be there again. They're awesome. They gave a concert. I honestly wasn't even aware of Crush 40 until last year.
They're awesome.
They are.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. I think all awesome people should be in these movies.
Thank you.
You got it.
Awesome. Anyone else? Oh, I got someone coming up. Just tell us your name and go ahead with your question.
Hi, my name is Porter Marn. It's nice to meet you, Griffith.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you.
I got two questions, quick questions. First off, what was your favorite of all the games you did? What was your favorite Sonic game to voice in?
Of all the games,
Yeah.
the second Sonic on Genesis, because it had the casino stage. That was always my favorite.
One more question.
Yeah.
Did you ever find that damn Chaos Emerald?
Where is your damn fourth Chaos Emerald? I'm still searching for it. Do you have it? That's a guilty laugh.
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Oh, I have a
we
question.
do have
Alex, this is my brother. Someone asked me, what is your favorite Sonic game? Shadow the Hedgehog. It is a very hard game. Yeah, that was the very first video game I ever worked on. So that was, thank you. I told them at my table I'd ask you in the panel.
All right.
Hi.
Hello.
Tell us your name.
My name's Risuru. I'm a Sonic speedrunner, so.
Oh,
hi.
cool. Hi.
Speaking of Shadow the Hedgehog, I love Shadow the Hedgehog, but
Thank you very much. I love you as well.
Oh, thank you. So you kind of talked a little bit about how you auditioned for Sonic and got into that, but what about getting into Shadow?
So I was in a session for, I want to say for Sonic X, but it could have been a different show. And there was an engineer at 4Kids who came in named John Dixon, and he came in, he said, do you want to audition for this other character named Shadow? And I was like, yeah, of course. So he brought me in a picture of Shadow, and there was like a little monologue that I had to do. So he's like, come over to my studio, because there were like 8 studios at that one studio location. So after my session, I went over, I auditioned, and I want to say I did a callback maybe a couple days later, and then it was like the longest not hearing anything, and I just figured, oh, I didn't get that. And then when Shadow appeared in Sonic X, it was like, oh no, you got it. No, you're gonna do this. It's so weird because sometimes there's a big celebration. Oh, you got the job, and sometimes it's just like, oh, you didn't know? No, that's what you're coming in for, you know. So that was one of those things where I was like, oh, this is cool.
That's awesome.
And I had sort of subconsciously based Shadow's voice on my roommate's voice at the time. His name was Carl. You guys know Carl. And great guy, let me live with him for about 2 years. But Carl was always writing a book, and it was always about, outer space and evil entities. And he's always smoking his cigarettes at 8 a.m, telling me about his book. So I think subconsciously a little bit of Carl came out into Shadow, into his voice.
That's beautiful.
I've based so many of the voices on people I've known, whether I even know that or not, it just happens,
Yeah, awesome.
I've yet to do a character that sounds like this based on my Uncle Freddie, but one day, possibly.
I believe it. Yeah, I will dedicate my next Shadow run to Carl for you.
Thank you. Awesome.
And did Carl ever publish?
Yeah. He actually, I went to one of his book signings. He did.
It sounds like you would have been perfect for the audiobook, is what I'm thinking. Did that not happen?
I don't think so.
Oh, see. Oh, well. Any other? We can take one more question if we've got time. Anybody? I see someone, unless he's running away. No, he's coming.
Oh,
back?
we could do a couple. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Are we out of time? I don't know.
No, I mean
Okay,
we
cool.
got a few. I just saw your handler is over here.
It's Alejandro, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, I heard rumors about the original cut of Shadow the Hedgehog. There's this new about the Tier M. I've heard we're all familiar with first that Damn Force Chaos ever, but I heard rumors about you possibly doing like way more my mixed swearing.
So when we did the game, I don't think I dropped any F-bombs as Shadow. I could be wrong because that was a long time ago, but they didn't know what the rating was going to be. I think the rating system had just come out at this point. And I know I think I said shit a couple times instead of damn, and because they said, and the disclaimer is they said, we don't know if we're going to use this, but let's just get it anyway. Because the opposite of that is like if they don't get it and they're like, oh, why didn't you get it? Then they have to pay you to come back. So it's like, oh, let's just get it all. But I don't think there were any F-bombs. Yeah, just a couple cranked up the notch a little bit. But I think they realized, like, we've already got guns in this game. Like, we don't have to go crazy.
And there's this whole like lost media group online trying to find a like archive of these old lines. Do you have any info on it?
Nope. I do know they videotaped my face for the whole recording session because they were animating the mouth to my mouth. So out there, at least there's a videotape of it. I don't know where those videotapes are. It's in a hard drive in a salt mine now. I don't know.
It's on the dark web somewhere, probably.
So some engineer has access to it, and he's sitting back there just chuckling to himself right now.
Time to hunt down the 4Kids vault.
Yeah, it could be.
That's great.
Thank you.
Ed.
So I got a question about just Shadow of the Hedgehog, like the game. it's pretty out there for Sonic when it came out.
Yeah.
When you were like doing that, like what were you thinking? 'Cause
This is awesome. I get to swear. I was so excited. I'll tell you though, when I was doing the game, first of all, it was the first video game I ever worked on, and there was so much dialogue. All I could think of the entire time when I wasn't thinking like, am I gonna have chicken parmesan for lunch? Was, oh my gosh, my voice is gonna be coming out of some kid's television, just like the voices that came out of my television when I was playing video games with my cousin. And that was such a cool thing to tap into because it made me so excited to do the job. It became so much more about like than just doing a job. It was like I'm doing something that's going to be so epic for someone else.
Yeah.
Little did I know when I got the hate mail that wasn't the case back then. But thank God for you guys who were all 5, 6 years old and your parents were like, yeah, go play that game with the gun and the swearing. Because it makes a huge difference now. But yeah, so that whole, I was floating on a cloud that whole session because that was like a couple weeks of recording. I couldn't believe that I was in a game that was named after my character and that I just have to do it at all. I was like 22, 23 years old. You know, it was such a huge turnaround from like what I'd been doing with my life, like seating people at a pizzeria.
It's an honor to talk to you, brother.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
All right. That's it for the questions?
Good.
One more.
Great Metal Sonic shirt.
Thanks. You see the back?
So cool.
Reminded me of Sonic the Fighter, so I bought it.
Love it.
Hi, my name is Lars, and so also as an artist myself.
Hey, Dale, people let it be. And was there ever a time that did affect you?
And like, how did you deal with that?
In the beginning, when I first read it, because I almost believed it. I almost thought, oh, wow, I guess someone called me abysmal, I think. And that stuck with me for a little while, at least, because I'd never gotten hate mail before and nobody had ever like told me, oh, you're really bad. Like kind of like the whole time I've been acting, it was always like, oh, you're really good. Oh, wow, that's good. You know,
and then you get
so
that shock. You know,
it was a shock. And I think I carried that around for a little while and then it just went away. You know, I didn't really dwell on it too much, but every now and then I would kind of chuckle and you'd be like, I'm abysmal. That's awesome.
I mean, when I was a kid, I definitely was like, how dare you desecrate my childhood by making me swear, but it's definitely my top 5.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Thank you. Was that you that said it on Instagram? That's it.
How long ago did you get it? It wasn't me.
About 2 months ago, yeah.
No, definitely.
No, okay, good.
I've come
Okay.
around way longer. Like, I love that game.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
So cool to see.
Yeah, you too. Thank you, Lars.
What's your name?
My name's
Dan. I actually had a question about Sonic, right? I played this,
Yes, kind of PS2 games. But I was just wondering whether this was
experience about playing like
Jet?
Yeah, like playing Jet. I was not a
It was great. I mean, Jet always tore my throat up.
It's like, shut your beak. You have to like, it's like Sonic, but you're like squeezing everything.
Yeah.
So it's really hard on your tonsils. With those games, I feel like a lot of times we recorded 2 games at once. So they'd have like 2 scripts in the studio, and it's like, all right, do this one. You never knew what you were recording, you know? But it was fun. I mean, a lot of those games, there wasn't a lot of dialogue. It was a lot of reaction, 1-2 lines. So they were super quick to record. And everybody was always happy. So I walked out happy, you know? Except in the very beginning of my career, I haven't walked out of a studio where people were like, where I felt like, oh, I really messed up, you know? Everyone was always happy with what I did. Jet was someone I didn't have to audition for. They knew I was going to play him, and they just said, give us 3 examples of what you want to do with Jet, and we'll choose which one we want. It was like the first one I did. They're like, that one. We're going to do that one.
Should choose one that was less raspy on your throat.
Yeah, I know. And right. But you're so high on adrenaline when you're doing these things that it didn't, it doesn't affect you till later when you're like, oh, why can't I swallow right now? You know? Oh, right, because of all the screaming I did.
Yeah, that was one of the things I actually really liked about
Here's just the inner these actors here.
You can like
it was beat up
for like how like animation wasn't up there because
right
as long as
the passion was there.
Yeah, and that's a big part of why voice actors are even involved in these because they need to like bring it just gives it more texture as far as like the believability, the playability. Yeah, I mean, it was. I can't think, except for Unleashed, there was never like an unpleasant recording experience. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
All right, one more. I know we got to get you back to your table, so that.
Hey, man.
Hi, my name's Dusty.
Hey, Dusty.
Awesome to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for anyone who's trying to like get into voice acting? Any advice or any tips?
Yeah, I sort of talked about it earlier, but where do you live? Here?
Aurora, so it's like 40
So-
minutes away from Cleveland.
I'd say think about what kind of voiceover you want to do. And I know the answer might seem like, oh, everything. But I will tell you, even though that's true, and I do everything and have done everything, that's a novice answer. So the more specific you are when someone asks you that question, the more they think, oh, this person really put thought into it, as opposed to like, just do everything. Because eventually you will, if you're successful. There are classes that directors that I've worked with, or casting directors that have cast me in things, teach, that are online. I say, practice as much as you can, read out loud as much as you can, because everything in your job as an actor is reading out loud immediately. And then take those classes with those directors or casting directors when you feel ready, because I've seen over and over people get jobs from those classes because they're good. Or one of my great friends, Dorianne Elliott, she's a casting director, and I've taken her class. She taught me so many tips, but she had someone who was babysitting her son, who she was like, oh, you got a good voice. And she's like, yeah, I might want to try acting, So she's like, do my class. She did her class, and then she liked her so much, she brought her in for like the voice of Purina, and she booked it. And now she has a voiceover career from that. So things can happen if you take the right classes with the right people, and it's the right time for you. Because you also don't want to go into those classes unprepared and feel like you're sucking, But yeah, so that's a good thing, and never give up, because there's going to be 1,001 opportunities for you to give up. I remember once, this doesn't have to do with voice acting, but I remember there was a spell in my life. It's like around the time I was 23. I don't even think I was voicing Sonic yet, but I was just sitting in my apartment in my one room, the size of this stage, half of this stage, and like looking up at the ceiling, and I'm like, just give me a sign, like if I should be here doing this right now or not. I'm like, I need a sign. And that night I got an email from a director saying, hey, do you remember me from like 3 years ago? We did a play together. I'd love for you to be the lead in my play. And I was like, oh my God, that was quick. Thank you, But again, like, you can get really discouraged. I've been discouraged. I've talked to my mom on the phone years ago where I'm like, I don't know what, like, I can't, like, this is hard, But you just keep going. You keep plugging out. You plug away, and eventually you're going to hit. Because all it takes is one job, like Sonic, for me, to open all those doors for you. But that took 5 years of auditioning before I even got to audition for Sonic, I dressed up as the Best Buy box in Central Park, handing out things to people that were, like, scared of me. Like, jobs like that, you just have to, you have to do the work, though. You have to do the work.
Yeah.
Don't ever expect anyone to just hand it to you,
Cool. Thank you.
You got it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick selfie with the crowd, so you guys could just smile for it real quick. And then we're going to say goodbye to Jason. Here we go. Everybody's in there. There we go.
All right.
All right, let's give a big hand for Jason Griffith.
Dude, thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it so much.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. But before you go, don't forget to check out the Cleveland Gaming Classic happening in September. You can go to GameCleveland.com, get your tickets now, join us for an epic celebration of all things gaming. Also, if you want to win a copy of Tulsa King Season 2 in Blu-ray, make sure to leave us a voicemail on our website. We'll be giving one away. We're actually giving 4 of them away, and all you have to do is share your thoughts and questions with us there with a voicemail. Finally, don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you name it. We are at World Gone Geek on all of those. Stay connected, keep geeking out, keep following your passions. Remember to use your powers for good, and we'll catch you next time.
The Podcast is Real is a World Gone Geek production.